leadership really comes down to inviting people on a journey to discover the leader within themselves while they're following you. So, question number one, where are you going? Number two, it allows you to really analyze what is the highest and best use of my time, my energy. And then finally, holding yourself accountable on your leadership journey invites others to look themselves in the mirror every single day and say, do I have the beliefs? Do I have the behaviors to really ensure that not only are we taking care of our customers, but we're taking care of each other as we are doing business together? So leading well invites leaders to think about, am I following a job, a career, or a calling? And when I'm leading well, it's not about what I can get, but it's about what I can give. And do I focus on making others better, not just lining my pocket or my bank account with stock options or selling a business, but really making it about others? So when you lead well, it's never about me, it's about we.
Struggling to lead with impact in a messy world? Then you absolutely need to hear who we have on the show today. Get ready to meet the incredible Simon T. Bailey. He's taken the magic he learned at Disney and turned it into a powerful 22-year mission to unlock your brilliance. Today, Simon's going to share his insights on how to spark resilience, finally ditch burnout, and lead in a way you never thought is possible. Because Simon is here to show you exactly how to, plus, never a minus. Welcome, Simon Bailey.
Hello, so good to be with you.
Your purpose is all about amplifying brilliance to lead well. Can you tell us what the phrase means to you and how it shaped your approach to leadership over the past 22 years?
So, leading well invites leaders to think about, am I following a job, a career, or a calling? And when I'm leading well, I'm leading from a place of calling. It's not about what I can get, but it's about what I can give. And do I focus on making others better, not just lining my pocket or my bank account with stock options or selling a business, but really making it about others? So when you lead well, it's never about me, it's about we. And I give that to you just as a mental bumper sticker to just invite leaders to think about, how am I really, really doing?
Yeah, in your book, Shine Your Brilliance and your speaking engagements, you talk about leadership being an invitation, not about the power or position, but about guiding others to discover their own potential. Why do you think the idea resonates so deeply, no matter the industry or era that people live in?
Yeah, Melissa, can we start that again, because the book is Shift Your Brilliance instead of
Did
Shine
I
Your
say
Brilliance.
shine? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. It's a power of
Yeah, yeah,
editing.
yeah. We can cut it.
Yeah.
In your book, Shift Your Brilliance, and your speaking engagements, you talk about leadership being an invitation, not about the power or position, but about guiding others to discover their own potential. What do you think this idea, why do you think this idea resonates so deeply, no matter the industry or era we live in?
Because what we really begin to understand, leadership really comes down to inviting people on a journey to discover the leader within themselves while they're following you. So, question number one, where are you going? Because if you are looking through the windshield of where you're going, you're not stuck in the rear view mirror of where you've been. Thus, inviting others not to get stuck in the past, but to have a foot in the present and in the future by how they do what they do. Number two, it allows you to really analyze what is the highest and best use of my time, my energy, and those that I am surrounding myself with. So if you're running and leading a company, my one of my mentors, John Maxwell, says leadership is caught, leadership is taught. So what are people catching from you as they are unlocking the potential within themselves to add value and to make a difference? And then finally, number three, holding yourself accountable on your leadership journey invites others to look themselves in the mirror every single day and say, do I have the beliefs? Do I have the behaviors to really ensure that not only are we taking care of our customers, but we're taking care of each other as we are doing business together?
I love that. So kind of give, get. I think a lot of times we're so transactional. I got to sell this thing. I got to do this thing. Giving and getting, it's the right way to do business. I think it helps you keep and retain customers as well and doing good while you're serving. And so I love that. You say that true leaders engage in the whole person, meaning mind, hand, heart, and soul. How can someone listening today learn from this and put it into their daily practice?
Ready to lead smarter and invest wiser? On the Executive Connect podcast, we unpack executive strategies for wealth and influence. Hit the subscribe button now. Don't just watch, act.
First thing is, what is the learning style of individuals that you are looking to positively influence? And when I say learning style, are they visual, auditory, hands-on? So how do you communicate to them in their self-explanatory style? Thank you, Dr. Martin Slegman from University of Pennsylvania, who explains everybody expresses themselves using language. So how do you dial into that? That's number one. Number two, if you've read the book, The Five Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman, phenomenal read. Even though that book is centered specifically in how do you save a marital relationship, I believe, Melissa, it has business implications because everyone has an appreciation language. So how does a person want to be recognized? Here's the research. 1 minute of recognition creates 100 minutes of initiative in the workplace. So how do we begin to appreciate people in the way they want to receive it? One of my greatest failures, Melissa, is I get promoted to a leadership role at Disney. I'm thinking I'm hot stuff. The reality is I was a jerk of a boss. I was in my own way, insert bless my little heart. And Disney was about to invite me to find my happiness elsewhere. So they sent me to Disney University, which is the internal training arm of the company. And Melissa, the one thing I walked away with is that Disney, being the seventh most recognized brand in the world, the unlock for potential and genius and brilliance in individuals was to understand what was important to them, because I was so focused on vertical ascension instead of horizontal connection. And when I dialed back, I'm like, wait a minute, how do I come alongside you and find out what's most important to you? And you really know that I'm not phoning it in, but I mean it from my heart. And I think the third thing is, so we have often heard of performance reviews and obviously do check-ins with individuals. But how about we just start with a simple question, because mental health is real. And the question is, how are you? And it doesn't have to be a formal meeting. Just how are you? And how can I best serve you? That is the alignment of head, heart, and hands. That's aligning and engaging mind, heart, and spirit.
That's great. I think we've kind of going back to what you were saying a bit is I remember day one of the pandemic. So many times I get on video calls and everybody's like, we got to get this done and this done and this done. And, not talking about how people are responding to the world out there, what's going on in their life. How can I serve them? How can I help them? And I took an opportunity just to do what you said. And it was amazing the response in so many people when, how are you doing? How's your family doing? And being genuine. I think the one thing people appreciate is genuine interest, not phony. I'm asking a question. How are you feeling? People don't finish their sentence before you cut them off. People
Mhm.
can sense if you're being genuine or just running a process because that's, what Disney or another coaching program says, right? I think you have to really lead with your heart and your hands, like you were stating. And so I know you really have your hands on the pulse of leadership right now. And I think right now there's so many trends on psychology, mental healthness. And I know with your recent studies and your MBA at the Royal Dock School of Business and Law, Let's talk a little bit about what you think is going to happen with leaders in 2025, not just surviving, but thriving in the world of uncertainty and change.
So, one of the things that we've done some proprietary research, created a whole white paper called The State of Working America Thriving in Resilience and Brilliance. And here's what the research is telling us. And then I want to give you three things for us to think about as it relates to the future. One of the big stats is 55% of working Americans would take a lower paying job to work for a leader that inspires their brilliance. So if you went to dictionary.com, inspire means to breathe life into. We asked working Americans, how do they define brilliance? They defined brilliance as confidence, competency, and creativity. So, one of the things leaders have to think about as we move into a future of uncertainty, do I have individuals on my team who have the ability to give feedback early and often as to what people are doing right? Because that increases their confidence, and what gets recognized gets repeated. So being an inspirational leader that can breathe life into people, critically important. All right. The second thing is a leader who is willing to stand up, Melissa, and say, here is the new frontier that we are moving to. It is not just about products. Products are important. Products generate money, but it is about posture. How do we posture ourselves in this moment and square our shoulders, and in the spirit of Russell Crowe and Gladiator, as one? We come together and we posture ourselves to say, here's the frontier, here's where we're going, and we are going to practice Vujade instead of deja vu. Deja vu is been there, done that. Vujade is going there, doing that. It's the salmon that swims upstream. It's when everybody is zigging, we zag. The third thing I think the future leader has to really think about is, how do I amplify individuals now more than ever before? If you went to dictionary.com, amplify means to enhance, enlarge, increase. So in other words, when I talk about amplify, here's the research from Dr. Maria Music, University of Michigan. She says human beings need three things right now, Melissa. They need to be seen, valued, and understood. So, companies in the future, here's the deal, Melissa, companies don't have ideas. Hard stop. People do. So, when I'm seen, valued, and understood, I am amplified. You are inviting me, wait for it, to take psychological ownership of the P&L, psychological ownership of customer satisfaction, psychological ownership of employee engagement, thus inviting everyone to become an intrapreneur. So leaders of the future will understand the unlock is, how do we help people be intrapreneurial in how they approach what they do at work?
Ooh, I love that. That was so good. Hard stop. That was so good. I love it. I'm hyped up from it. So I love how inspirational you are. I mean, working at Disney, you've worked at Hyatt, you've even been named Success Magazine's top 25 people to help people reach their goals. That's incredible, first of all. Congratulations for that. I want to take a moment to kind of piggyback off what you were saying. Maybe a story about when somebody became your amplifier, and maybe what you learned from that, how people were able to bring out your brilliance so you can serve so many people that you now serve today.
Are you a high-income professional looking for smarter ways to protect your wealth? The Texas Freedom Fund gives you the opportunity to invest in energy assets leveraging proven fracking technology and prime access to global markets. With strategic oil and gas investments, you can build real wealth while benefiting from tax advantages under laws dating back to the Reagan era. Take control of your financial future. Visit texasfreedomfund.executiveconnectpodcast.com.
There are three people that come to mind. So, years ago, when I was trying to get hired by Disney, I was interviewed by a lady named Janice, and Janice, amazing individual, over 2 years, 10 interviews, a 10-page psychological analysis. She was my sponsor to get me into Disney. And after leaving an organization of just 100 people to now working in an organization, 64,000 people working within 47 square miles who are walking around singing It's a Small World. After all, they had sniffed the pixie dust a bit too much. I was overwhelmed, couldn't get anything done. I'm like, what the heck? And she calls me day 80 and she says, how you doing? I said, Janice, when I hit the 90-day mark, I'm out. I can't get anything done. I don't know the culture. And she says, hold on. I want to introduce you to two individuals. She introduces me to a guy named Tim Hill and a guy named Larry Lynch. Both of them, at some level, Melissa, gave me a hand up, not a hand out. They are the ones who wore my brand t shirt when I didn't have access to rooms of influence and decision making within the Mouse House. They were the ones who were hard on me, challenged me, ensured that I didn't settle for the status quo. They invited me to realize that average was over. They could hire anybody, but they gave me a shot. And all I needed was somebody to give me an opportunity. So I am forever grateful because what I discovered in my journey at Disney is a paycheck is given to people who show up, but opportunities are given to people who think and work beyond what they're paid to do. So what would have only been 90 days turned into 7 years because of these individuals who challenged me to totally make a difference and add value every day.
That's great. And I love it. It's one thing to be given the opportunity. It's a whole different thing to take it and go after it. And I think that takes courage and determination. I love that you shared that. You have this great line: leading well means being a plus in a minus world. I love this line. What's one micro practice or maybe something small that our listeners can do today to embody this idea?
Under promise, over deliver. So many individuals overpromise uh, and never really step up. When you underpromise and overdeliver, you become that person they remember. You become that plus in a minus world. And so think about your customer. If a proposal is due to them, say on Friday, what if you got it there on the Monday before the Friday? Even though you managed their expectation that they would receive it on Friday, that's being a plus and a minus world. It's those little things. If your business says that you are open at 9 a.m., what if you open at 8:50? That would surprise people if you have a physical location. You'd be like, whoa, what just happened? If they call on the line, do you have happy people answering the phone, not somebody that just took a tablespoon of molasses? No, hard stop. That dog will not hunt. So being that plus and a minus world is this living embodiment that whenever people connect with your business, they feel the love. If they don't feel the love, they are shopping elsewhere.
So true. I know I've experienced that going to get coffee or checking out. People like next, next, and they're not really inspired to be there. They don't want to be there. They're showing up for their paycheck. So how do we inspire individuals who are not really motivated to live up to their potential or to get motivated? Do we manage them out? Do we work with them? Any kind of thoughts on that?
I love this question. There are 6 principles that I could share. I'm going to give you 2 to 3 in this moment. The first thing is commit to coaching. And what I mean by commit to coaching, really identifying you hired the individual, and like in any good relationship, it's cheaper to keep them than to lose them. So we might as well coach them so at least they know the organization has done everything possibly to help that person evolve. You've heard the words upskilling, reskilling. So let's just kind of identify where they are in their journey, number one. Number two, attitude is key. In one of the books I've written, Releasing Leadership Brilliance, we share some of the research of Dr. Russell Qualia, who surveyed 66,000 students. And what they found out is that students who had a teacher that believed in them performed 8 times better. So if we want people to change their attitude, become more engaged at work, add value, become that entrepreneur, do they believe that we believe in them? Or are we just passing time, waiting to invite them to find their happiness elsewhere? So really that attitude is key. And then the third thing to think about is the next time they do something that advances a relationship or moves the business forward, say thank you. Acknowledge them. Muchas gracias, dankeschön. When you say thank you, that little recognition, what might blow their wig off, all because you took the moment to identify they did something positive. That could be, Melissa, some of the ways to get that person just to shift. Shift stands for see how I fit tomorrow. They can just make that shift to become better.
Yeah, I love that. Investing in your employees. I think a lot of times I've heard lately, and you tell me if I'm wrong here. I hear employees saying, my company wants to invest in me, but not that much because they're afraid I might leave or get, more certification or more experience. So I hear a lot with, on this podcast from different leaders or, in the communities I'm in that a lot of employees now feel like they get some training, but just enough that maybe they don't go. What are your thoughts on that?
So, in our research, one of the statistics is 74% of individuals would rather work for a leader that had no formal education than for a leader that had advanced degrees. So, when we unpack that, management is the glue to why people stay. You've heard it, you've probably said it. People don't leave companies, they leave the manager. So, CEOs, leaders of leaders, you've got to look at how are we developing managers to ensure that they develop people and people feel that they are learning, they're not just a cog in the wheel. McKinsey, Melissa's done some research around the Magnificent Seven, the Ubers, the Amazons, the Airbnb, the Apples. What is it that they do? Microsoft, uh, NVIDIA, what is it that they do? Here's the secret sauce. They shift from becoming a know it all culture to a learn it all culture. So, what that means is when employees are learning every single day because of the manager, it's not just about the paycheck, it's not just about the feel good. They're like, wait a minute, I have job security because the company is developing me every single day, every single week.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to kind of piggyback another question on that. It makes me think about all like the NVIDIAs and a lot of these other companies that are out there. A lot of their employees seem to stay for a long time too, right? Like you were saying, they stay. But in the tech sector that I work in, it seems like a lot of times we're seeing a lot of shift. People are working for a company for a year, going to another company. The company that was left, they're promoting internally, moving people up. Maybe it's a technical person that's moved up, has never managed people before. They're a doer, now they're a manager. How do you see that working when people are just moving people up to plug a hole temporarily because people are leaving? Do you find it harder to train people from not managing employees to going into management while moving up as like an executive or director? Uh, let's talk a little bit about that.
It's very challenging, Melissa, because just because a person has tenure, they've been there, and now they're elevated to lead people, doesn't mean it's a right fit role, doesn't mean it's a bad person. It was just a decision made in a knee jerk reaction to saying, oh my goodness, we got to promote this person before they leave, and they've got to lead people. If you do that, is there a plan in place, a learning path to becoming a manager or a leader, not because you have a degree? There are some people that have more degrees than a thermostat and they get promoted into a leadership role, but like me, they are a jerk of a boss. And I'm making just a very broad statement because they have a lot of intellectual capital, they don't have a lot of EQ, a lot of how do we read the room, how do we dial in to where people are showing up. So one of the things, and this is what our research told us, if you're going to move individuals into a leadership role, there should be 90-day check-in points where that that manager who's just been promoted is talking to another leader that is challenging them, giving them feedback, hearing their war stories, hearing their pain points, and then ensuring that they are going to classes, they have a coach, there is some development that's happening, that they know how to lead people, how to do it purposefully and consistently. Because so many times they can start, but they stop because, oh my goodness, the building's on fire. Figuratively, not literally. We got to do all these things. It's the end of the month. Did we close contracts? On, and we get distracted. Something that John Maxwell, my mentor, says is that consistency compounds over time. So you want managers who understand we've got to give feedback consistently. We have to teach people how the company makes money consistently. But then we have to understand what's important to the individual, because the culture is not the vision or mission statement on the website. Culture is how you do everything when no one is looking. And the person that transfers that culture into the head, the heart, and hands of employees are managers. So we've got to double back and say, okay, is this the right culture to create the right outcomes?
That's so good. I love that you said that. I think it's super, super important. And I kind of going back, it made me think when you mentioned that Disney, Apple, Amazon, the big companies, they have a rigorous interview process for a reason because they understand hiring the wrong person can set their business back a year, 2 years, or more in some cases. So they have these kind of checks and balances in place for that purpose. And when they do hire someone, it's almost like there's a buddy system, an internal mentor and checks and balances throughout their HR department. A, to make sure the employee is doing the ask, and B, to make sure the employee has what they need to do their job. I think, sometimes I hear, and I hear just in the groups that I am part of, where employees start their first day of work, they haven't talked to their boss, they're trying to figure out how to work in a system, they don't have the right tools, so their onboarding experience becomes so difficult that it's hard to get back that employee's trust in the business. So when it comes to that, like I'm also curious, like framing it a different way is, what can employees do for employees out of the gate to make sure they're all in on that culture you're talking about?
Oh my goodness, Melissa, I love this question. I could spend an hour on this question, but I'll give you just some initial thoughts. We need to ditch the language onboarding, and we need to replace it with launching, because I'm being launched into a destiny, launched into an opportunity to add value and to become a better human being. So, launch versus onboarding. Number two, how you start the day determines the day. How you start with a company determines your initial reaction to that company. So, what would it be like to ensure day one they have a buddy that is going to meet with them, take them, get a cup of coffee, show them where the restrooms are if they're working virtually or remote, helping them just kind of on board to understand, how do you get things done around here? Like, what's the rules of engagement? Because it's not written online or in the employee handbook. So, having that buddy creates stickiness. Number three, every week, at the end of the week, checking in with that person, either their direct leader or someone else on the team, to say, how's the first week been? How are you doing? What do you see? And at least doing that for 30 days. But at the 90-day mark, and this is something I learned when I did some work for the Ritz-Carlton Learning Institute, every 90 days, and specifically the first 90 days, Ritz-Carlton takes a new hire and they ask them, hey, you came from another organization, you've seen things different. What do you see here? What are we missing? And because of that fresh perspective, that person can rattle off, bada bang, bada boom, here's what it is. Now, Melissa, the bigger question is, just with the three that I mentioned, what does this do? This creates what I would call cognitive Velcro, where now the mental hooks of that individual hooks into the organization because they understand the who, the what, the how, the why, and how they fit their little piece of the puzzle fits. I'm mixing metaphors intentionally, fits into the organization for where the organization is going. So that velcroing of their head, their heart, their hands connects them more. But it started with a buddy who cared and showed intentional interest in how they are doing.
That's great. That's really great. I love that idea. And just asking them at the end of the week, because I think you mentioned a little bit at the beginning where sometimes the best ideas are people that haven't been at a company for a long time. So if they're fresh and new, they're an independent view without, being influenced in their role or their position at the company. So I think that's such a good idea. So I want to get kind of any final thoughts or anything you want to share with our listeners that we may not have touched on.
Every leader listening to us right now, I really want you to look yourself in the mirror and answer the question, how are you doing? Why do I ask this question? 2 years ago, 19 CEOs died. Died. It was not in the news, but research bears out. And there are a number of executives who show up in business every single day and they're like, man, if the company got sold tomorrow or didn't, I would rather go do something else. And so leaders and executives, as you know, Melissa, are always taught to cry up, never cry down. So I want you to do an assessment in a couple of areas. How are you doing spiritually? How are you doing health wise? How's your health? How are you doing family wise? How are you doing business? Notice business is number 4, not number 1. I was married for 25 years, and my then mother of my children said to me, you give everybody the best of you, but you give us the rest of you, and I don't want the leftovers anymore. So, Melissa, what I realized, I built a house but lost a home. I was chasing money but had no meaning, and I was pursuing power but had no purpose. And after 25 years of being married, there went the Range Rover, the 6,000 square foot house, private school, jetting the family off to vacations in Hong Kong and Singapore. That went out the window. And as a father, all I was crying for is I could have did this better. So wherever you are, how much is enough? What's that number? And if you've hit the number, then think about your family. Who's going to be crying at your funeral? Here's the last thing I'll say towards this end. Uh, Dr. Dennis Waitley, who is another mentor of mine in Southern California, he said something, Melissa, that just absolutely rocked my world. My children are 22, 26, and I promised them that they would be able to go to college, no student loan debt, and they both are on their second car. So we understand what has happened. And Dr. Waitley said, I asked him, how do I be a leader, but also a good parent? And he says, make sure you give your children roots and wings instead of loot and things.
Ooh, that's good. That's real good. I'm gonna have to share that with my children because I often find we give things versus our time, and really our children want our time and our mindful focus versus our phones and our all the things that are happening in our life. And so I think that's such a good analogy. Simon, you've left us so much to think about and such a fresh perspective. Now we're going to flip the script on you and ask you, how can we best serve you in your community?
Oh my goodness, amplify somebody today. Find one person, send a text, an email. My children wrote me this past Father's Day. They gave me handwritten letters. What would it be like to write a handwritten letter to someone that's important to you? Because it is equivalent to hugging them with your words. Who can you hug with your words today? That would be my ask.
Oh, I love it. Simon, thank you for being here today and for amplifying our brilliance today. Connect with Simon at simontbailey.com. Check out his books, Be the Spark and Shift Your Brilliance, and focus on connecting with him through LinkedIn. Until next time, that's the Executive Connect podcast.